Do you have the right to access your car's diagnostic data? The right to repair battle intensifies as the feds tell OEMs to ignore Massachusetts law. Mercedes adopting the ChatGPT as a beta test platform. And did the Alpha Auto Group get the deal of the year when bidding to buy Lookers? That and more on the Autovate podcast. Welcome back to the second episode of the Autovate podcast. Joined with my co-host, Cliff Banks, coming to us from a cabin in the woods this week. Cliff, thank you for joining us once again. Lots to talk about this week. I want to start off with this idea of Mercedes incorporating ChatGPT in some of their new cars. It's a beta test program that drivers can opt into. But this is something that's very interesting to me and something that we're going to see a lot more of. What do you think of this?
I'm intrigued by this because I've long believed that our cars talking to us in a more meaningful manner is the way of the future. Let me explain. And I kind of laid this out at the Automotive Financial Services conference at NADA in early 2020. I began my presentation with a scenario of getting into the car and it verbally telling me that I needed for brakes. And then saying, Cliff, you also have a slot open or available 5:30 on Wednesday. These are the lot of vehicles available. Would you like to set an appointment? And all this is being done verbally. So I'm not receiving an email or a text or a direct mail piece from the dealership. It's the car actually integrated with the vehicle systems. Now, look, what Mercedes announces right now, the integration with ChatGPT can't do any of that. It's a cool, really highly advanced parlor trick. Nothing more.
Right now.
Right now. But this is just the first step, I believe. And look, it's a 3-month test. 900,000 vehicles are eligible here in the U.S. If the customers, if the owners use it and it gains some steam, I think it's just going to unleash over the next few years just a swarm of solutions with generational AI. Yes, yeah.
Yeah, the AI technology has rapidly improved in the last couple of months. If you haven't heard about our AI or even used it yet, it is definitely coming to our vehicles. And I was reading on your bank's report. It's funny, I thought the same thing. 41 years ago, KIT.
Yeah, exactly. Right. Yes.
We all grew up with KIT, being able to talk to Michael Knight. And here we are now with these cars being able to interact on a more conversational and personal level. And it really is going to be fascinating to see how all of this develops. And it's cool to see Mercedes kind of toeing in with Microsoft using their open source platform. What about privacy concerns, Cliff? I mean, that's really, when we talk about this, the very next thing people start to talk about is, well, what about my privacy?
Oh, yeah, that is a huge issue and one that is working its way through legislatures and courts at some point, But yeah, Nick, I mean, that's going to be a battle that's going to be fought hard over the next few years. And, I think it remains to be seen how that plays out.
Yeah, I agree. And like we already know, data is just such a valuable piece of this automotive puzzle. And dealers and OEMs want to keep as much of that data in their pocket as possible. This conversation sort of spills into what I want to dive a little deeper into this week. And it's this right to repair battle that's happening in Massachusetts. And I'm going to describe it, Cliff, and you tell me if I've got this right, because this is sort of a complex issue that is going to be something that I think everybody's going to be talking a little bit more about. Most of today's cars have some sort of modem built in, telematics, and all of that data that the car is garnering from the driver is available to the dealers, not even dealerships, is available to the OEMs. Say, okay, I can see your data and I can tell what's wrong with the car and what needs to be fixed. Massachusetts voters have said, we want access to that data. We want access to it, and we want third parties to have access to it. We want my personal mechanic to have access to my vehicle's telematics and diagnostics so I can have my own mechanic repair it, or even so I can repair it. Um, the feds have said to the OEMs, no, disregard Massachusetts law. You don't need to make your cars have third party access. How do I have that right? And help me understand this a little better if I don't.
This story has so many layers, and it goes back decades, literally. In fact, in the early 2000s, when I first started at Ward's as a reporter, I had interviewed Senator Paul Wellstone, the late Senator Paul Wellstone from Minnesota, who was actually driving a right to repair bill in the U.S. Senate. Unfortunately, Senator Wellstone and his family, I actually talked to him the morning he and his family got on the plane. He was getting onto the plane that actually crashed that day. And we were setting up another conversation for later that afternoon. They were actually, I think, flying to a funeral that day while they were campaigning. The election was a week or two later. At that time, whatever momentum the right to repair folks had gained pretty much died. Here's the deal. Manufacturers don't want third parties, independent repair shops, foreign countries getting their hands on this data. Then you have the tension of the customer, the owner, wanting to take their car to a independent repair shop to get fixed, to get repaired. The manufacturers certainly have an argument that it's a safety issue. It's an intellectual property issue. It's going to this argument or this battle, I think, is going to intensify significantly just because of the connected vehicle or software defined vehicle.
The voters in Massachusetts, though, Cliff, the voters in Massachusetts very clearly, at least the people, very clearly said what they want.
Oh, sure, of course, sure.
And I would, I'm a driver. I've got an old Mercedes, and the other day I just fixed my car with a $50 part because I was able to get information, and those scanners and those OBD readers were something that a lot of us DIYers were grateful to have access to be able to read codes in our car and be able to fix simple things. So this is definitely a battle because I can certainly see both sides of this. I want access to the information in my car that I own, and I don't want to be forced to go to a dealer. But then I also can understand how this information in the wrong hands can be accessed and used in potentially nefarious ways. I don't know what the answer here is.
But Nick, this is going to be one that is, like I said, I've been covering it, following it for more than 20 years. And I don't think we're any closer than what we were 20 years ago. It's solving this problem. So I imagine some reporter 20 years from now will be on a podcast or some sort of communication device talking about this very topic. So
They'll be talking to their cars about this topic.
yeah, there you go. Exactly.
It is a very interesting topic that you're right. I don't really see an immediate answer to. Let's move on into some merger and acquisition news that came out about a week ago. Also very intriguing. This Alpha Auto Group, the $500 billion bid to buy Lookers. That was sort of a surprising buyer and also a pretty seemingly low price. Can we dig into that a little bit?
Yeah, there's been a lot of activity in the UK market. Lithia made a play for Pendragon, which is one of the groups there, large groups. An activist investor on Pendragon's board blocked its sale. Lithia then pivoted, acquired Jardine Motors in the UK. I think there's approximately 50 dealerships there, 50 locations. Penske has nearly 140 locations. They've been buying stores and groups for about a decade. Group One, likewise, has a pretty big presence in the UK, I think with 80 plus stores. So this Alpha Group, which is a Canadian-based group out of Toronto, which has, I think, close to probably 15 or so stores in Canada, and they now have 5 in the US. according to their website. This was a surprise deal. I think any of the other players that I mentioned, it would make sense. But the founder at AAG he seems to want to build out a global, international play here and has the means to do it.
Is this a done deal though, Cliff? Because it does seem like there's room for another bidder to come in at a slightly higher price and kind of cut this deal off. Is that? Do you see something like that happening?
Our friends overseas, James Baggett, who runs Car Dealer Magazine, someone, if you want to know what's going on in Europe and in the UK, he is a must follow and a must read. Love his stuff. And he was all over this, reporting it last week, and was able to dig a little deeper into the SEC filings, to the regulatory filings. And the shareholders have said, the Lucas shareholders have said they agree to the deal, but there was a caveat from one of them that said that if there was a higher price or a higher premium, they would listen to that. So I don't know. I don't think the deal is officially done yet. I mean, it's been announced. I mean, that someone could come in, buy it from under AAG, possibly. I mean, you see that happen occasionally. The market there is so attractive right now. These deals, seems like these deals are, I don't know if underpriced is the right word, but they're attractively priced right now, as opposed to here in the U.S.
Let's bring it back to the U.S. Morgan Auto Group acquiring Al Hendrickson Toyota. That's another interesting dynamic there.
Morgan is one of the fastest growing groups in the U.S. Father and son team. Larry Morgan's chairman, founder. Britt, his son, has been the CEO for quite a few years now, and they have really embarked on an aggressive strategy. They're executing it quite well. Now it's, I think, 67 stores, I believe. And this is all within the last 7 or 8 years at the most. I think the Morgan acquisition of Hendrickson, you'll see, you've probably seen on social media where it's being billed as the biggest acquisition in history for a single point transaction. Listen, I've been covering this for years, and it makes for great headlines. Biggest transaction. It's hard to tell. I mean, because you can group these transactions or make the numbers look however you want. I mean, there's blue sky value, you have real estate, you have inventory, you have the actual dealership. Is it the biggest single point? Yeah, probably. But then you have large groups that have sold, and how you break those store numbers out. It's all a little artsy, I guess I would say.
Speaking of numbers, there's a couple I want to throw out at you, Cliff. December 6th to December 8th. Does that mean anything to you? It means something to me. The Autovate conference at the Mauna Lucia in Scottsdale, Arizona. We are on the Autovate podcast, but the conference is really kind of the crown jewel of Autovate, and that's coming up December 6th to the 8th. We want to remind people about that. Also, subscribe, give us your feedback about the Autovate podcast. We're always interested to hear what people think, and we'll be bringing more interesting topics and guests to the Autovate podcast very soon.
Thanks, Nick. Great to see you guys.
Thanks, Cliff.
You guys take care.
You too, brother.